Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of What's Happening Now with CNI Solutions. As always, please remember to go ahead and like, share, and comment on this broadcast live, as there could be information not only useful for yourself, but perhaps useful to a family member, a friend, or a neighbor. Upcoming events for CNI Solutions. We do have our special HBCU initiative that we are working with in collaboration with 57 Northampton. And I have the founder and executive director who's going to be our guest tonight with that organization tonight. Also, keep in mind that as we're going into the fall, we'll be going ahead and starting some of our fall programs with CNI Solutions. So be on the lookout for that as you see that on our social media. Tonight's broadcast is being brought to us by Will Technology, where Will Technology offers a host of variety of government things. They are the advanced technology program management and innovative solutions to various federal government agencies, including the U.S. Military Forces, Department of Defense, and NASA. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring Miss Jana in here, and let's talk about Miss Jana and her organization, 57 Northampton, Cope and Learn and Thrive. Jana, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to have this conversation.
Great. So tell me something, Jana. How did you get started with this organization? What made you come up with 57 North Hampton?
Well, there's a long story and a short story. How much time do we have?
Oh, we got the
time. Well, I basically 57 Northampton. It's I used to be a natural hair blogger. Back when natural hair was first coming to the scene, when Black women were starting to embrace their natural hair without heat pressing or chemical relaxers and things like that. And we got pretty big. We were talking with celebrities and things like that. We were able to like sponsor products and get people supplies and things that they needed to take care of their natural hair. But one of the problems that we kept coming against was women that weren't necessarily struggling to find ways to deal with their hair, but were mentally struggling to accept that their hair was beautiful and things like that. And we realized that the issue was stemming from that lack of confidence, some poor mental health, like negative perceptions, things like that. And I realized that pretty much everything that we were dealing with, just the root of everything came down to mental health. So we actually I wrote a book called The Little Girl with the Too Big Hair. We were initially using that and talking to little girls and young children about, accepting their hair and that kind of thing. I ended up speaking about it, and it was, I was speaking with people that weren't necessarily that demographic, and they were really moved by the book, and they kind of saw the hair as just an allegory for anything that they were struggling with and that kind of thing. And so they asked me to come speak with their students and things like that. And it really just kind of evolved into this, us talking to children and adults and pretty much anyone that would listen about their mental health, as opposed to just, fixing one element or, coming to terms with one element of yourself. How about learning to adjust your mindset and learning how to cope in healthy ways and so on and so forth. So that's kind of the long story. Um, yeah, 57 Northampton, the name has meaning and all of that, but that's kind of the long story.
So, I'm actually really excited to see this and hear what you're doing with 57 Northampton dealing with mental health, because I have noticed there has been an uptick in the African American community where we are now starting to take a little bit more responsibility for our mental health. And we're trying to do things a little bit different, where it was always so much of a stigmatism in the Black community, like, oh, you need to see a mental health therapist, or you need to see a shrink, or whatever. Just, oh, you're weak or this. But I'm noticing that people are now becoming more embraced with it, and they're getting this help that they need to help them better survive. So I do appreciate, and I'm glad to see this, that an organization like yours is actually out there trying to help people who need this type of support. So, you started off with children and you're dealing with the hair. How has this evolved into what it is now?
So really we were, like I said, we were talking to children. We kind of took out the hair element and really just started
Hmm.
talking about ways to just bolster your own self-confidence, positive self-talk, goal setting, how to deal with negativity, how to learn from failures, things like that. All of it, just different mental health concepts that. And so we were, working with different community centers, things like that. When the pandemic happened in 2020, several of the parents of the children that we had been, have had in our workshops and things like that, they started to reach out and say, "Do you have anything for me though? Like in during this pandemic, I've lost my job, I don't have insurance, but I need to talk to someone. Do you guys have therapy?" And so we reached out to. It was actually a therapist friend of mine that I reached out to, and we just provided therapy for one person. They told their friend, we ended up providing therapy for them, and it really just kind of spread like wildfire once people realized, like, okay, I can sign up, I can get, a free session here, I can talk to someone, kind of get out of crisis so that I can get back to kind of functioning in a somewhat normal way. Um, and it really just kind of spread from there. So I would say in 2020 we really shifted our focus from primarily children to basically anyone who will listen.
Okay. All right.
Mhm.
So let me ask you something. I know that you and I and we're in collaboration to help support the Alabama HBCU initiative for entrepreneurship. And one of the elements that you're going to provide to this particular class will be a mental health portion. Can you explain exactly how that works for our viewers and so they understand?
Yeah, I'm so excited about this actually because I feel like this is the first time that I've really seen mental health applied to entrepreneurship in a very intentional way, and I'm so excited to kind of be a part of this. But what we're offering, it's a course called, well, I've done a course called Hustle Healthier, and it's really the tagline is showing entrepreneurs how to find success without losing their minds. And so that's pretty much what we're going to do. It's a whole 3-part course, but for the sake of the collaboration that we're on, we're really going to kind of like concentrate that information to like those really really important nuggets. Um and yeah, we're going to be talking about um how, for instance, gratitude and how that can lead to being more resourceful as an entrepreneur. We're going to talk about ways to learn from failure. We're going to talk about ways to use comparisons. A lot of times, as business owners, we don't want to compare ourselves, or we get kind of shamed for comparing ourselves to others. But this talks about how to use comparisons in a healthy way, how to not have your own self concept minimized by someone else's success, and things like that. So I'm really, really excited to be able to use the principles of entrepreneurship that we've been traditionally taught and show people how mental health ties in directly with it. A lot of times
Mhm.
we try to we feel that it's separate and that mental health and entrepreneurship have like it has no place in business. And I'm so excited for the opportunity to really just flip that on its head and show that, by taking care of your mental health, you are taking care of your business. So
Right.
um yeah, and I can kind of go on a tangent with that question, but
Well, so I like that. I like that aspect of it because um, understanding that when you're in the entrepreneur world, it is stressful, and there is a lot of things that can make a new entrepreneur stress out. Whether it be, hey, I'm not getting any sales, or I don't have any support here, or if you're a nonprofit, I'm not getting any grant funding, and I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to have to close my shop, and this is my baby. This is my dream. This is my lifeline. Like this, so that is important, and for people to understand that. How did you derive that hustle healthier is something that is needed for the business community?
whew, personal experience, let me say. It During the pandemic, once again, that really kind of flipped things for us. Like I said, that's when a parents started reaching out and we started collaborating with different therapists, and our business and the people that we served, it just exploded, and we weren't ready for that kind of growth, so everything fell on me.
Hmm.
And I was thinking, I'm like, there's no way. Of course, by the time we get to November, December, I was just, my mental health was disintegrating, and I was feeling like I couldn't stop, but also feeling like I can't afford to have like not be taking care of my mental health while I'm taking
Right,
care of the mental health of
right,
others.
right.
And so it was during Christmas break. I'm like, okay, no one expects me to work for Christmas break. I'm going to stop and I'm going to take this time to actually kind of just do a little bit of research, do some journaling, just kind of, quiet my mind and put together some principles for me. Like, what can I do as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, the founder of this nonprofit? What can I do to take care of my mental health and keep my business going and support the people that we're supporting? And so I put together just a quick manual for myself. I shared it with a friend of mine because later they were going through something similar, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I just researched this. You should try this," and it helped them so much. They ended up approaching me and saying, "Hey, Arlen Hamilton." I don't know if you're familiar with her. She's an investor and a founder of the BC Backstage Capital.
Mhm.
She's yeah. So she was just launching her learning platform, her learning management system, Arlen's Academy. And so she was looking for course material and that kind of thing. So they suggested that I reach out to her and see if I could get on our platform. And she loved the idea. And so from there, I built out a course specifically for that platform. And I did more research and I really just got this kind of well-rounded 3-part series where we break down everything. So we talk about um, you know, what mental health in decline feels like in your body. So that there are assessments that you can take so that if you're sitting there and you're taking the course, you can say, okay, on a scale from 1 to 10, I'm this anxious. So that you can kind of know what you need to address in that moment. We talk about some of the habits that we have as entrepreneurs and how that's really damaging our mental health right now. And then, of course, we talk about some of the ways that you can actually actively work on improving your mental health while taking care of your business and your business goals and things like that. So but that's kind of that's how I got the idea. It was really something that worked for me and something that worked for my friend, and so I just wanted to share that with the world.
So with Hustle Healthier, is this how long of a program is it? Is there a certain amount of time, or could one be enrolled in Hustle Healthier for a long period of time? How would that work for that entrepreneur, that business owner who wants to get better?
Well, the course that we offer, if you want to go through it, like just go through it from start to finish, I believe it's 5 hours. If you want to go from start to finish, just But I know that we're doing this 8-week course, and I would say that if you really want to really kind of absorb the tenets of Hustle Healthier, I would probably go over it maybe over a 2-week period. There are some activities that you will need to start adopting and kind of like working into your system. We talk about setting up your work environment. And so that's not something that you can just, read about and move on to the next. So it's like, okay, actually consider how you work. What is your work style? Do you need to be sitting down? Do you need to be laying down? Do you need to be in a comfortable position? What colors inspire you? What materials do you need if you are more artsy? What items do you need to get to keep your stuff organized? That kind of thing. So there are little elements like that you can listen to. You can just listen to it in about 4 or 5 hours. But in order to really start to internalize and start to really utilize some of those principles in Hustle Healthier, I would say give yourself about 2 weeks to really hear the information, apply it, go back and get more information, apply that, so on and so forth.
Have you ever been invited to an organization, to a business, to assess the employees or assess that entrepreneur, that business owner, to see where their mental state is at, if the work that they're doing is being stressful to them, or how that you're able to help them better manage what they're doing in their actual business?
I haven't, but I would love to. What I have been invited to do is come and speak to different, groups of entrepreneurs, or even I've been speaking with a lot of employees, like, PR professionals, police officers, teachers, things like that. High stress positions, people that work in these high stress positions, and just talking to them and giving them, some tips and tricks on how they can work healthier. They're hustling healthier too, even if they're working for someone else, but those principles do still apply. But No, I have not actually assessed an actual organization, but I would absolutely love to.
Is there any statistics or data out there that you may have or you may have collected yourself that will suggest or even indicate that uh, mental health and business is either increasing, decreasing, or it's like at 30%, 40%? Is there any type of data that shows that how important what it is that you're trying to do for these businesses is?
Absolutely. In my presentation, I kind of go over some of those statistics, especially where we're talking about entrepreneurship. Um, and I can't list them offhand, but I think they said something like entrepreneurs are 50% more likely to experience suicidal ideations. They are more likely to have, experience depression, things like that. Um, More likely to abuse a substance. Those kinds of things. And when you look at the entrepreneur lifestyle, it's very isolated. It's long hours, there's a lot of rejection. It's not hard to see the correlation when you really stop and kind of look at it. So yeah, I mean, there I would say entrepreneurship is screaming for a mental health component, and it has been for a very long time. I think just the pandemic has really kind of helped to amplify that voice, and so now people are finally listening. But yeah, this has been necessary.
So I'm gonna touch on that, and again, folks, for those who are viewing, if you have any questions for Ms. Jana, please put it in the chat, and we'll go on that as we're talking about mental health and entrepreneurism in business. So Jana, what do you say to an entrepreneur or business owner who tells you, I'm fine, I don't need that, that's a bunch of, hoopla, hoopla, I'm okay, this, and that, but yet his employees or his co-workers or his, his business partners are both all saying he's stressed out, he's losing it, he's doing things he's never done before. How do you address something like that?
Um, I think the most effective way to address that in someone like that is really to talk about how their mental health is affecting their sales, is affecting their bottom line. Um, it's like when you are clear headed, when you are focused, when you're able to move through challenges, when you're able to solve problems and come up with solutions without it really causing too much stress, like you're gonna make more money, you're going to make more connections, you're going to make more of a name for yourself, just be that much more effective. So I someone like that, I would absolutely show them how your mental health and the people that you're working with and your working style, this is absolutely going to affect your bank account. And I think that I've actually had that conversation and it's been pretty effective. Yeah, I mean, if there's one thing an entrepreneur understands, they understand money.
Right,
Money
right.
talks.
And I agree with you there. And they definitely do understand money. I know from dealing with the public and dealing with different organizations in our local communities, I've noticed a few business owners who have been stressed out. And like you said, they've actually turned to substance abuse, rather it be the pills, rather it be prescription grade marijuana, rather it be alcoholism. They turn to something to take away that stress. But the reality of it is, until they're able to understand what's got them there, it's still going to be there tomorrow or the next day or the next week until they address the bottom line, what is stressing them out, and a better way to handle it. How do you address that?
um I mean, that's so what you touched on something that is basically what we are addressing right now is people are and have been for years using unhealthy methods to pretty much shortcut and circumvent the actual mental health healing process. That's why people are turning to drugs and they, turn to, pills, drugs, alcohol, even unhealthy eating habits, excessive exercising even can be, a negative way of coping, oversleeping, things like that. So a lot of people are using these methods to circumvent that process. And the only thing that can be, that we can really say is the healing process actually understanding your mental health and learning what things it is that you need in order to live and thrive. It's There are no shortcuts, and that's just what it is. um I tell people all the time, it takes bravery. It takes a lot of bravery to face yourself and to actually tackle your mental health. But the alternative is, you know, it's the substance abuse, it's the um, you know, losing relationships, it's losing yourself. That these are the alternatives. And so there's no shortcut, but it's absolutely worth it.
Okay, so we got a question from our viewers. I'm gonna put that up here on the screen. From Miss Krantz, it says, "Is there a campaign or initiative focused on the connecting the entrepreneur with Black therapists who understand their unique challenges and experiences?" As an entrepreneur, I often find it difficult to connect with a therapist who truly understands where I'm coming from. What do you say to that?
That is a really good now I know that there's at least one. And I'm blanking on the name right now, but if I could I don't know if you have a way of sharing resources, but I could get you that website, and if you could share that with your
Yes, we
audience.
can.
Okay, okay, great, cuz I know there's at least one. Um but yeah, that I mean that's she raises a very very good point, is that the entrepreneur struggle and that journey, it's very very unique. All of us are hustling, we're all, either working for ourselves or working from someone or working for someone else. But employees and entrepreneurs, it's still different. It's still very very different. And so it is very important to have someone that understands that specifically. There are not a lot of resources, there are not a ton of resources that address specifically entrepreneurship and mental health. Yeah, I'm really spacing on the name. There now that I'm thinking about it, there's like three or four of them. So I'll make sure to share that with you. And we're trying to position Hustle Healthier to be, one of those contenders as well. But yeah, I'm happy to say though that it does seem to be a slowly emerging field.
Mhm.
Um, so hopefully there will be more of that in the near future.
So I got a couple of questions, and I want to capitalize on this young lady's questions, what she said. But two questions, two-part questions for you. One, do you think because there's not enough African American therapists in the communities that we as entrepreneurs who feel like we're going through a mental breakdown or a mental health issue, that we do not seek help because they don't really understand where we're coming from, as Ms. Krantz said? And also, is Hustle Healthier going to reach beyond the borders of Alabama?
Okay, so two questions. Is Hustle Healthier going to reach beyond the border? And then your the very first question. Can you give that to me again? I want to make sure I answer it thoroughly.
Do you believe that the reason why a lot of African American business owners or people do not seek therapy is because there's not enough therapists who look like them to understand them?
Yeah, yes. I think that that's one of the myriad of reasons why African Americans and people of color do not seek that mental health help. That is a huge one. I've had, people not acquaintances, but like, business colleagues and things like that actually reach out to me and talk about how they had a therapist, and it was one, and this one something that most people would not think about, but she was talking about something that had happened because of her hair, and then had to stop and take about 40 minutes to explain to her therapist about how hair discrimination is actually a thing. She had to talk about the Crown Act, which her therapist did not know about. And she said, I spent about 45 minutes kind of edifying my therapist, and then by the time I was done and she understood, that session was over. And she was coming to me looking for a different therapist. So yes, a lot of times people are like, I'm not going to be understood, or I don't feel comfortable sharing certain struggles, with someone that I don't believe will understand me. So yes, that's a huge issue, and it's one of the several issues that African Americans struggle with, where it comes to actually actively looking for therapy. And regarding Hustle Healthier, absolutely, we are going outside of Huntsville, or outside of Alabama. Yeah, this we're looking actually to take it, international is the end goal, but nationally at the very least it's our short-term goal.
Okay. We got another question here. Put that up from Miss Pamela. It says, how important would you say happy home life, i.e., work-home balance, is the overall mental health entrepreneurs?
So important. I it's pivotal. Um a lot of times, we do get into the mindset that there's work you and then there's the home personal life you, and you realize that that's still one person. That person navigates both spaces,
Mhm.
we like to um tell us, and it really has been hammered into us that we switch off a portion of ourselves, and certain boundaries go out the window, and certain needs that we have go out the window when we walk into the office versus when we walk into our homes, and that's just not the case. They work together, and if you have, a great home life but your job is stressing you out, there's actually recent studies that have come out that show that your employer, the people that you work with, have as much of an impact on your mental health as your spouse. There are actual studies that have come out recently about that. And so I would say, and vice versa. So if your work life is great and your home life is miserable, you are going to be miserable. So it's so important that both of those things, that you are taking care of both of those things, and the you that walks into both those doors. You have to make sure that you are addressing yourself holistically and not just in terms of the roles that you play throughout your days.
Okay. We got another question from one of the viewers from Miss Samantha again. It says, therapy can be costly, and we often face similar challenges as entrepreneurs. It would be beneficial if more affordable group classes or sessions were available. Does Hustle Healthier offer these lower cost group sessions?
Let me tell you, Samantha, Hustle Healthier is free.
Hey, man.
It's free. So if you go to arlenzacademy.com, you'll see it there. The last time I checked, it was actually on the homepage, so you'll see my face, and you just click there, and that course is free. So the entire thing. Um, yeah, so that will always be available. Now when we start, when we work with corporations and we come in and I, speak to different groups and things like that, now there is a charge that's associated with that, but the entire course, if you want to take that, that is free and it's going to remain free.
Outstanding. We got another question here. It says, for so long, multitasking was touted in the business world as to be all in all. Recently, it has been determined that multitasking is actually not good for one's mental health. What is your opinion on this? And before you answer that, I'm going to say a little something on that. I pride myself on being a multitasker. I'm multitasking right now. Normally, I would have a producer here running the chat for me and doing everything else, but I'm doing it myself. So am I doing myself, according to Ms. Pamela's question, am I doing myself a discredit at this moment?
I think that multitasking has its place, but I think that relying on it as like this is the way that I operate, I feel like that is detrimental. Um, it's always better to do one focused task and get that done, and then cross that off your list so that you can move on to something else. It keeps you more organized when you're able to just clear that task off your list. Yeah, so I think multitasking, like I said, it absolutely has its place, but it's not, you're not even as efficient when you're multitasking. I'm sure that you've been in situations where you have so many irons in the fire, you're doing five or six things at a time, and you end up later looking at that thing and realizing, okay, I have to do this over, here's a typo, this is, and so you're not even as efficient, you're not even working at 100% when you're multitasking like this. So those are my opinion. Of course, like you said, right now you're being producer, you're doing all of these things. I know that it would be a lot easier for you if you had people in place to do this for you, but sometimes you kind of have to do what you have to do. But I would say in general, it's a better idea to try to find ways to lessen your load so that you're really kind of focused on the things that you like to do, the things that you are good at, and then find people in your network, or even services or products that you can use to kind of take on the rest of that load so that you're not overworking yourself.
So you bring up a good point on that, Jana, because as entrepreneurs and especially new starters just starting a business, I know Miss Samantha was talking about her being an entrepreneur and her just starting. As an entrepreneur, when we're first starting, we are that everybody. We are that multitasker. We are the delivery man, the accountant, the broadcaster. We're all of that. So how does someone who has to be all of that and needs that team around them but don't have it, how do you keep those type of people from burning out and not actually getting their business going? The business ends before it even starts because they're burnt out of doing everything.
This is the golden question, Charles, and I'm so glad you asked. One of my favorite parts of Hustle Healthier is when we talk about resourcefulness and we talk about gratitude. Every time I start talking about gratitude, a lot of people kind of, their eyes glass over and they're like, okay, what is she getting into? But
Right.
um, gratitude, it's basically being able to acknowledge the good that you have in your life and the things that are working out for you. And when you can acknowledge that, all that does is it really brings that thing into view. When that thing is fully in view, you can really recognize its strengths and its weaknesses, and you can realize how your life would be negatively impacted without it. And that's the mindset that really helps you to see, okay, how can I use this as a resource for where I am right now? So for instance, I was talking to a kid. He was maybe 21 or 22, and he was trying to start a business, and he was talking about, of course he's still in college, he doesn't have a lot of money, he doesn't have a lot of time and things like that. But in talking to him, he mentioned, he was a musician, so he mentioned, being in school. He mentioned that he plays in a band at school, that he has an internship at some musical business in the city, that he has access to mentors, that kind of thing. And so while he was talking about not having money to get certain elements or get, he was talking about this really vibrant kind of bustling network that he's actually surrounded by. And because he was so, kind of in his head about what he could and could not afford, he wasn't able to see all of these people could be resources. So we actually kind of sat down and I mapped out, okay, who's this person you're working with? Who's your teacher? Who are these mentors? And just in about 2 hours, we were able to kind of put together a plan for him to where a lot of the things that were on his plate, he could actually reach out to someone to get them to take care of that, and he could actually focus on something else. So for people that they kind of feel like they have to do it all, you will have to do quite a bit, but do not take for granted the people that you have that are rooting for you. Do not take for granted that we are living in like this technological golden age where there are apps that you can use. You can use your smartphone for almost anything. There are co-working spaces that are being built. So many entrepreneurship programs that are launching. There are resources all around us. And so just take that into consideration and don't feel like I do have to do everything. Like be open to all of the various ways that your help can come.
All right. We got another question from Miss Pamela. Says most entrepreneurs are very driven, type A personality types. How do you get those type of people to view self-care as a necessity and not a waste of time? Ouch.
Yeah. And
I
like
think
I
God
said,
directed towards me.
oh man, was that a drive-by? Did you just get hit, Charles? Okay. Um, it goes back to what I was saying earlier. Money, like okay, you feel like you can keep doing, you're not sleeping, you're snapping at people, your hair's falling out, whatever it is, if you can show them, okay, your mental health, the way that you are, the way that you're handling businesses, this is how this is impacting your bottom line. All right, so if you're type A and you're focused on your business, this is how this is killing your business. If that's the only thing that you care about, I'm telling you, there is, mental health is for everybody. And so there's always a connection. And for those type A personalities, yeah, I find that that's a very, very effective way of showing them that they need to actually be intentional about putting their mental health and their self-care first.
I got a question. I got a question on that, but I'm gonna get one of the viewers another question we got here, but I'm gonna come back to that one. From Samantha, she's saying, I came late to this meeting. Did you already cover how entrepreneurs can effectively disengage and separate themselves from work after business hours to maintain a healthy work-life balance and protect their mental well-being?
We actually had not talked about that. So I'm glad that you asked that question because it brings me to another one of my favorite points, and that is boundaries. Boundaries. Um, I think that it is so important. I think if you could pull the question back up, that was an
Mhm.
employee coming back to their home. Was that correct? Oh, entrepreneurs. Okay. Yes. Entrepreneurs, especially for entrepreneurs that are working in their own house, it's very hard when to turn off when you feel like you're supposed to turn off. So setting boundaries, mental boundaries as well as physical boundaries. So right now I'm actually in my house, but I have a room in my house that is my office, and work does not leave this room unless there's a special circumstance where I have to leave. But work stays in this room. It does not come in the bedroom because then I can't sleep. All right, because then I'll start to associate the bedroom with work, and I'll just be wired just to stay awake and that kind of thing. So a physical boundary is super important. It's also really important to, when you are in your office, when you're actually doing your work, to set boundaries that allow you to do your work effectively. So if you're saying, I'm in my office and I'm going to work from, let's say, 3 to 6 p.m. If those are the work hours that you want to establish for yourself, make sure that you actually honor that. So you're going to tune out all other distractions. You're not going to be on your phone. You're not going to be, you're going to be working as efficiently as possible during that time, so that when you leave, you can actually say, I did what I was supposed to do, and I can now leave this because I'm going to come back and I'm going to do this again, at whatever designated time that I have set. But setting those boundaries really, really helps you. It's difficult at first if you've been working as an entrepreneur and you have not yet set boundaries. It's difficult when you now start establishing boundaries to actually kind of like flow through those boundaries. But once you've kind of gotten in the habit of, okay, this is when I work, this is where I work, this is how I work, these are the behaviors and things that I will accept when I'm working, and and it stops at this time, and then this is, once you actually start to enforce those boundaries, it becomes a lot easier, and then it just becomes kind of knee jerk, it becomes kind of natural. um, I also want to say that it's important as entrepreneurs to, especially entrepreneurs that are working from home, it's important to establish boundaries with your friends and your family and your loved ones as well. Because when you're working from home specifically, a lot of times you might have, maybe your kid running in, or, your spouse, or someone who's like, oh, you're home, so you have time. And you have to be the one to respect your own boundaries. If you don't respect the boundaries that you set, why would anyone else respect them? If you don't know how to respect your boundaries, how will anyone else know how to respect your boundaries? And so if you say, I'm working, don't call me between this time, once again, 3 and 6, don't call me. And then somebody calls you and you answer the phone and then you talk and all this kind of, you've just kind of showed them that that's not really a boundary, you know? So you have to be the one to enforce, to set a boundary, and then enforce that boundary. So if I'm not taking calls, if this is my work time, I'm not, I'm at work. It's the same thing you would do if you were working at a 9 to 5 job. If your phone rings, if somebody walks in your office, you can't deal with that because you're on the clock. These are the exact same boundaries that you need to establish for yourself when you're actually working in your entrepreneurial role. And that just kind of helps to make that line of demarcation between work and business a lot sharper and clearer.
Okay, so I want to go back to Pamela's question for a second, where she talks about those A-type personalities and getting them to understand the necessity that mental health is a necessity and not a waste of time. So, what if that A-type personality doesn't know that they're having a mental breakdown? They don't know that mentally they got something going on. How do you get them to see the big picture, kind of what she's saying? Because a lot of times we always say, we say, I need to save him or her because she's starting to do this, she's spiraling out of control. But they don't see that. They see that they're making progress. They see that they're getting production done. They see they're driving that train.
Yeah. So there's a couple ways you can show them once again how it's affecting their bottom line. You can show them how it's impacting the people that they care about, things like that. But one thing that I do have to tell people is that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. So
Right.
you can provide all of the evidence, um of how their mental health is disintegrating and how it's impacting, but also the onus is on them to get the help that they need. It's not on you, no matter how close you are to this type A personality, no matter how much you care. And it's unfortunate. It's one of the harder parts about interpersonal relationships sometimes is seeing somebody that you care about who's going off the rails and there's not really anything that you can do about it. But um you know once you have kind of laid out, like, these are the ways that it's impacting it, and this kind of thing, um there are times where you just kind of have to step back and just kind of that allow them to process what's going on themselves. A lot of times people will, they might try to be strong and say, you're saying this and it's not true and I got this. But a lot of times if you even just give them some space and you just kind of step back and let them process what you said and what they're going through, a lot of times they do kind of come to that conclusion on their own. That does happen, but once again, that's something that is more so on them, and it's difficult. It really really is difficult, but it's kind of true. So yeah, you definitely can't take on the guilt of, this person is not getting help and it's on me to make sure that this happens. You can't take that on yourself. Only thing that you can do is make sure that your mental health is where it needs to be. That's all, really all you can do.
Okay. We got another question here from, looks like from Samantha. She says, does Hustle Healthier practice mindfulness? Ah,
Yes. Now it depends on how you are defining mindfulness. I define mindfulness as basically being present and being very aware of what your mind is doing and how it's feeling and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of different ways to look at mindfulness, but we do like to practice being present. And so that's basically um, taking some time to make sure that you are disconnecting from your work, from your phone, from that type of thing, and basically taking a moment to ground yourself. Um, and so that's being out in nature, um, connecting with friends, doing something fun, doing something that pours back into you. These are things that we consider mindful. But mindfulness, that it's kind of a blanket term. So I would need a little bit more I would like to know your definition of mindfulness, but yes, we do we do talk about mindfulness where we're regarding being present. Yes.
okay. I don't know if that viewer is still on or if she's still watching, but if you are, ma'am, if you want to put into the chat a little bit deeper definition so that Miss Jana could go ahead and expound on that some more, that'd be awesome. And again, for those who are viewing this, please take time to share this broadcast with other people, especially those that know who are working in the entrepreneur world and they're starting an entrepreneur journey. This could be valuable information for them. Jana, one of the things, I'm excited about, and I know a lot of the viewers don't know this, but we are teaming up. We're going to collaborate together to teach our entrepreneur course class, and it's going to be something different for me because I've never had the element of a mental health version placed into this class. And I know it's going to be something different for you because you never had to put an entrepreneur class with your mental health class. How does this make you feel?
So excited. Oh my gosh. And I had to lower my voice because I tend to yell when I'm excited. So I had to be very intentional. um, I'm really excited. This is um it's just so monumental because once again, this is something that I have been kind of doing as a standalone. Um, but the opportunity to do this in collaboration with an actual, accelerator style program, this is major because a lot of times you have entrepreneurs, and I'm sure because you've done this program several times, that come in and it's just business. We're focused on business. And I know, I've seen the co-starters curriculum and that kind of thing. There are sections that talk about mindfulness and that talk about, knowing who you are, and the ways that how who you are impacts the business, and your strengths and your weaknesses,
Right.
and things that you're struggling with and things like that. But a lot of times entrepreneurs really do try to, they don't really understand the importance of who they are as a person inside their business, outside of the body that gets the money, you know?
Right.
And so teaching Hustle Healthier on its own, even though it's mental health for entrepreneurs, a lot of times people can, once they take the course, they see it, but it comes across as just self-help. And then entrepreneurship is just business. It's getting a business off the ground, but being able to put the two together really shows that the two have really, they belong together. So I'm really excited for the opportunity to just kind of show how the two are really like peanut butter and jelly. I'm so
Outstanding,
excited.
outstanding. Hey, I tell you what, Jana, I do appreciate you joining us this evening and taking time to spend with us and talk a little bit about 57 Northampton, and along with Hustle Healthier. We're excited, seeing our solutions, excited about teaming up with you. Is there anything that you would like to say before we proceed to close?
Um, no, I'm really, really excited to be on the show. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to get started with the collaboration that we're working on. I do want to say, for anyone listening, that if you do know any HBCU students in the state of Alabama, the applications are open, and I just got a text that they will be open. They were supposed to close tonight. They will be open until tomorrow night. So you've got a 24-hour extension. If you want to share this with any HBCU students in Alabama that you know, it does come with money, so they will get a little cash infusion, those that complete the course. So that's a little incentive that you can share with those that you're sharing this information with. But yeah, that's it. Thanks so much for having me, and thank you guys for the questions.
Hey, we appreciate you, Miss Jana. We definitely appreciate you coming in and giving us all that wonderful information. Folks, just as Miss Jana said, they extended the HBCU registration until tomorrow night. So if you know someone who goes to HBCU in the state of Alabama, please have them go ahead and register so that we can go ahead and get them signed up for this entrepreneur class, which is going to be combined with Hustle Healthier to make for a better entrepreneur and businessman. So as always, remember, your yesterday is not your today, and your today is not your tomorrow. Good night.